Hello and welcome back to another live stream, folks. Your fantasy football championships or third place games or fifth place games or seventh place games, ninth place games, 11th, 13th. I won't judge, but your final is probably here, if not starting as we roll into week 17 and get set for really the end. I do want to preface before we get underway today, I will be doing a lot of Dynasty content in the off season. So for those of you who are playing year round, trying to play with draft picks, you're in keeper leagues, whatever you want to call them, I will be covering a lot of those as well. I really plan on doing a lot of rookie profiles, looking at the class of 2024 ahead of the draft, which is in about 3.5 months. So just because football is done being played, do not worry. You will still get content to prep you, and before you know it, it'll be draft season for 2024. I see we've got a few questions in the chat. It will be my priority to get to those as soon as possible. I just have a few injury updates, but folks, very, very happy to be back, especially in time for the Fantasy Championship, just to give you guys somewhat of a live sense of being able to answer your questions. I know I took a little hiatus there. I do want to take the time to remind all of you that there is a link in our description right now with the Discord. So even though I have not posted in a couple of weeks, I have been answering questions. A select few of you can vouch for that. So if you want to be getting answers a lot quicker and in more live fashion when I'm not live like this, make sure you join the Discord. The link is in the description there. We also have our merchandise. Link is in the description for that. If you are looking for a late Christmas present or you just want to grab some merch, we've got really good hoodies. We've got a hat. We've got some shirts. Plenty of high-quality merch through Teespring. So, folks, again, if you want rapid answers from me, the Discord's the answer there. But we will be live streaming a lot more going forward. We will be doing some videos and shorts and draft profiles for Dynasty. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. We have a big week ahead of us. So let's jump into injury updates, and then I will answer any and all questions that you have. We start with Jamar Chase. Jamar is likely to play. And if this is the case, outside of Joe Burrow being out pretty much this whole season, this Bengals offense will be as healthy as they have been all year. We've got Jamar Chase. We've got T. Higgins. We've got Tyler Boyd. We've got Joe Mixon all in. That is phenomenal news in my opinion. So those are things to look forward to there, to say the very least. Raheem Mostert will not play. Big news here, considering the sheer touchdown production we've seen from Mostert, right? North of 20 touchdowns this year. He's been going back and forth with Christian McCaffrey. That's pretty good fantasy and just general football company to be in. And he's in his prime at the ripe age of 31. If you remember us talking about Raheem Mostert way at the beginning of the year, we were saying to sell high on him because he had a couple of good weeks. I was saying there's no way on earth that he sustains this throughout an entire year, and I was wrong. I will be the first to admit I was wrong. But you have to look at the injury profile we had on him. Obviously, hurt in and out through the first few years of his career, and the likelihood of some running back being in their prime and putting up 20 touchdowns and north of 1,000 yards at the age of 31 after the track record that we saw from Raheem Mostert before this, in my opinion, not very likely. But, you know, I'll eat it. I was wrong. Anyway, Mostert not in today. Obviously, very unfortunate if he is one of the many players that got you to where you're at today, whether it be a championship, third or fifth place game. But huge news again. Sheer touchdown production we've had from him has to go to somebody else now. It's Miami against Baltimore today. Devon Achane is expected to step into this role. And then Jeff Wilson Jr. should see an expanded role as well. So more touches for both of those. You know, when a lot of people look at Miami, they think of pass heavy, but really this team runs the ball 44% of the time. That's the 11th most frequent rate in the league. Again, they are a winning football team, so you have to factor that in as well. What do I mean by that? Second half, they are handing the ball off a lot more to chew clock. All right, Alvin Kamara will play. No matter how poor the Saints offense has been, Kamara is still averaging 7 targets per game, and he's actually the second most targeted receiver on the team behind Chris Olave, so he's at 84 targets at the moment. Really, regardless of the game script, I do like Alvin Kamara a lot just because of the sheer usage, especially in PPR. Jordan Addison, good to go against the Packers. This one's huge for a couple of reasons. For one, Jair Alexander is suspended, so that's the number one corner for the Packers. I highly doubt he would have lined up across Jordan Addison considering Justin Jefferson is healthy. Let me get some water. But it's more down the pecking order, if that makes sense. So Eric Stokes probably gets some time against Justin Jefferson, and then really it's a roulette from there. This is a young football team. The defense is a bit more veteran heavy, but I do think that having Justin Jefferson healthy and having Jair Alexander out could free up some space for a pretty productive rookie in Jordan Addison. TJ Hawkinson is also out, so playing Josh Oliver, if you're looking for some streaming options, may not be a bad move either. This team is just so bruised up. I mean, the running back one, Alexander Madison, goes down. Quarterback goes down in Kirk Cousins. We're going down the line now. We tried things out with Josh Dobbs. That's not working. Nick Mullins, no Justin Jefferson for half the year, and now Hawkinson, the tight end one, is out. So tough luck for them. Zay Jones is not expected to play over in Jacksonville. Keep in mind, we have Trevor Lawrence out already. Christian Kirk is still on injured reserve. And so that pretty much leaves Calvin Ridley and Travis Etienne and Evan Ingram to be productive with more touches. Ridley has been a nice surprise the last couple of weeks. A lot of people, myself included, were ripping on him for various inconsistencies. But game script-wise, it's against the Panthers, so I really like Travis Etienne to get some garbage time touches as this team tries to run the clock down, quite literally. And lastly, for my updates at least, Cole Kmet, game time decision. This one's a pretty big deal, considering the success he had early against the Cardinals last week. This guy had 4 receptions for 107 yards, and he barely played a quarter. Kmet has a career high in receptions so far this year at 70, again with 2 weeks to go. Receiving yards with 678, and he has 6 touchdowns to his name as well. His career high is 7. Speaking of 7, Kmet is tight end 7 in PPR. Chigo Okonkwo over in Tennessee, he's a great fill-in possibility at tight end 22, owned in about 35% of ESPN leagues. He's had at least 6 targets in 3 of the last 4 games, so we're seeing more usage there, and he faces a Texans team giving up the 4th most amount of fantasy points to tight ends. All right. We'll go matchup to matchup and kind of break things down from there, but I want to get to your questions. So we've got Jelly of the Month in here saying, hey, Corey, in 2 title games. Well, congratulations to you, man. Do you think Pittman plays? I do not have Michael Pittman in here. I will check his status through Sleeper right now. Actually, I'll go with you. We've got MA Football Guy in here, one of my faithfuls. Kevin Edmonds, what's up, man? And then Tino back. Good to see you, Tino. Thank you for the kind words. All right, we're going to go take a look at Michael Pittman in our little sleeper portal. I'm actually really looking forward to putting out more Dynasty content in the offseason. I know it's going to suck not having football to watch, but we will fill the time. And if you're somebody who's going to be starving for football content, I'm here to feed you. All right, so Pittman obviously getting bruised up in that Pittsburgh game, not playing against Atlanta. He's set to go against Vegas. He is expected to suit up as of 10 hours ago via RotoWire. My buddy actually used to work for RotoWire. But, yeah, so it looks like he will be good to go against the Raiders. That's a secondary that hasn't been the best. They've played some ugly games, though. I will say, they gave the Chiefs a run for their money, and the Raiders are one of those sneaky teams. They're not out of playoff contention. Secondary has actually been pretty good on a pass yards per game perspective, but Pittman has been the decisive option. He's been, in my opinion, one of the quietest but most productive wide receivers in the league. Another 1,000-yard season. You look at the quarterback play he's had, I'd argue Gardner Minshew's the best he's had so far. He's had Carson Wentz, Matt Ryan. It's been rough, right? So, yeah, looks like Pittman will be able to go. Again, we're around that 90-minute mark. This is for Jelly of the Month. So when you're around that 90-minute mark, teams should be issuing a final injury update. So we'll just keep an eye on that for sure. But it looks like he's good to go. All right, MA Football Guys saying good. Oh, no. Corey, welcome back, man. Good to see you. Good to see you. Can you draft for Dynasty anytime? You really can. I mean, some diehards will get bored and do it in like March or April. Personally, I would not draft until after April because the NFL draft is then, and then you kind of get to know the rookie class and where the top talents of the new generation of the league are going to be placed. So, yeah, you technically can, but I would not draft until, probably not until after the actual NFL draft, just so we have an idea of where that rookie class is falling. Kevin Edmonds says, sup, my guy. Achane, Kamara, JT. Who are you sitting out of the 3? Off we go. Oh, Tino's saying Happy New Year's. Happy New Year's to all of you. I know. It's kind of crazy that we're already going to be in 2024. It's going to be that time of year where you try and write things, whether you're in school or in work, and at the date, you keep putting 2023, but it's not true. All right, so we have Kamara, JT, and Achane. I mean, my issue with Achane is obviously lack of usage. Efficiency has always been there. With Mostert down, we have to ask ourselves, and he is set to be the lead running back, we have to ask ourselves, how much of Jeff Wilson Jr. are we going to see? Now, are we going to see Jeff Wilson Jr. split this thing 50-50 with Devon Achane, or are we going to see Devon Achane lead the way? It looks like, yeah, RotoWire saying poised to lead the Dolphins backfield against the Ravens. We also want to look at strength of opposition. They are going up against the Raiders today. So the Baltimore Raiders, I just said Raiders. Wow. Baltimore Ravens. Talk about rust. We're shaking it off today. Baltimore is allowing 4.4 yards per carry, so actually not too shabby of a matchup for Devon Achane. Achane, 8 yards per carry, 7 touchdowns. He had a monster lightning in a bottle glimpse right here of, what he could be. So I'm feeling pretty good about Achane. Obviously, Jonathan Taylor has had a ton of injuries this year. He's been in and out. His matchup is against the Raiders, 4.3 yards per carry. So strength of opposition is roughly the same. Not as involved as a pass catcher as he was in the last couple of years. Again, really small sample size. We're talking about somebody who's only played in 8 games so far. But Jonathan Taylor, in all honesty, not very efficient. Career low there. He's really taken a step back each year since he exploded in 2021 and gave us one of the best seasons we've seen out of a running back. Yeah, I'm not loving Jonathan Taylor. I mean, again, strength of opposition is pretty much the same thing as against Baltimore. I feel like we're taking a risk with Achane considering he hasn't played much in general, but the sheer production we've seen from him is something to love. And I talked about Alvin Kamara when we started this video. If Kamara is 100%, as long as you don't see anything about a snap count, again, it's an illness, so he's not actually hurt. I like the Alvin Kamara flu game, though. I mean, in all honesty, the sheer production you get out of the passing game, especially if this is PPR, it's really hard to pass up. It doesn't even feel like Alvin Kamara is having that great of a year. He certainly is not in that great of an offense, and he's already passed up 1,000 yards. Actually, he's passed up 1,100 yards, has 6 touchdowns, and is running back 11.5 PPR. I would assume he's around that same range in full PPR. Out of the three, this is for Kevin Edmonds, I am probably sitting Jonathan Taylor. Tough to do that because obviously we've seen what he can do, but what he has done this year is nothing impressive. Tino says, what's up, bro? Happy to have you back. Thank you, man. Baker or Browning? Oh, do I start Chase? I have Olave and Travis and Flex. All right, so Baker or Browning, we'll start with that first. Baker Mayfield, what a resurgence, right? It looks like the Buccaneers are looking at a long-term deal, or at least an extension with him. Folks, if you're just jumping in, I'm answering any and all of your questions as we're about an hour and 20 minutes out from kickoff. So pop those in the chat. Make sure you leave a like. Subscribe if you like fantasy content. We are going to be rolling hard into the offseason with Dynasty fantasy football content. And if you're not in Dynasty, we're just going to be doing general advice, rookie profiles, and we're going to get you ahead of your opponent. When your opponent's taking 6 months off and waiting for the season to start in 2024, you're going to be grinding, studying with us. So, yeah, delightful surprise. That's what Baker has been. And then we look over, I mean, not too much of a surprise, right? He has good weapons around him. We look over at Browning. Chase is playing, by the way. Browning against KC, a much tougher secondary as of late. I do expect this to be a high-scoring bout, and this team is playing for their playoff lives, by the way. Browning's kind of cooled off. We look at his last 3 games combined. He's got 5 touchdowns, 5 picks. He's a good volume thrower. We've got a few 300 passing yard games in here. I am probably going to go Baker in that divisional matchup with those weapons and with his experience. I still think long-term we would like Baker over Jake Browning. And in this specific game, against these specific matchups, I think Baker has a lot more upside. So, Tino, we're going to go Baker Mayfield over Jake Browning. Do I start Chase? I would. This team is pretty dang healthy. And as we just read here, playoff hopes are on the line. This is essentially a playoff game for the Bengals. A team that, honestly, could have easily been a 4 or 5 win team and just tanked for the draft, but they've been going crazy too. They lost Burrow. Everybody else has been kind of bruised up. I think this is a game where everybody plays as much as they possibly can because it is quite literally a playoff game. Their hopes are on the line in Cincinnati. They're in a tough division in the AFC North. So I am starting Baker. I am starting Chase. Tino says I have Olave and Travis and Flex. I'd keep it. And if you're going to swap anybody out, Chase for Olave would be the one option. But if you're going Chase, Olave, and Travis Etienne, I assume, then you should be fine there. Blurpy says Kmet or Gerald Everett. We've got to watch it with Kmet, Blurpy, because apparently he is a game-time decision now. So we'll go and look at him. Again, folks, answering any and all of your fantasy questions as we head into the main slate for Week 17. Make sure you leave a like. I see we're up to 5 likes already. Let's try and get it to 10 today. And make sure you subscribe. We have plenty of content ready for you as we roll into the playoffs, as we roll through your championships, your third-place games, your fifth-place games, and, of course, the Dynasty fantasy football world that I'll hopefully be teaching some of you some things about, if not just helping you in general. All right, still a game-time call. I would like to think he plays because, believe it or not, the Bears are not out of the playoffs. I mean, they have to win out. They need some help from about 3 or 4 teams, but I'd say I like the odds that he plays. We do have somebody in Cole Kmet with career numbers right now. So if we're choosing between him and Gerald Everett, obviously with Justin Herbert out, we know that Cole Kmet has been the second favorite target of Justin Fields. If Cole Kmet plays, I would go with him. I really like the usage situation here. We're consistently seeing around 7 to 8 targets per game. This was, again, with Cole Kmet playing in like half the game. So, yeah, I mean, career high in targets. No, I'm sorry. Career high in receptions. On pace to be career high in targets. Career high in receiving yards. Not as much down the field work, but again, we're really splitting hairs there. And then on pace for a career high, possibly in touchdowns. I'm going to go Kmet if he's healthy. If we see anything about a snap count, this is for Blurpy. Then we go with Gerald Everett. But I think long-term and in general, we have seen much more promise from Kmet considering his usage. All right. Tino says, going for a 3-peat today. All right, Tino, we've got a little dynasty over there for you, don't we? Do you have a sleeper league I could join? Dynasty. MA Football Guy, I can start one up possibly. I am in a sleeper dynasty league, but I think everyone's sticking around. We've all kind of put our chips in for 2024. But by all means, I could start one up if that's something you guys are interested in for sure. Jelly of the Month says, thanks. Do you like Denver's defense today? We look at Denver's defense. We'll break down their matchup here. And thank you guys for joining me. I've had quite the schedule change at work, so my sleep schedule's been a little bit off, gotten a little more busy. But nonetheless, I am back. And we'll be back definitely for the offseason. Against that bruised-up Chargers offense, I'd be fine with the Broncos, to be honest with you. I also don't hate going out and grabbing the Jaguars defense just because they are playing against a Panthers team that really can't get anything going on offense. Do not be fooled by the 30 points they put up against the Packers. The Packers have been playing some of the worst defense of any team in the league. I mean, phenomenal offense, the youngest offense in the league, but their defense, led by Joe Barry, who somehow still has a job. Different story there. All right. So, yeah, I like Denver's defense. Otherwise, Jelly of the Month. If you can't get them, I think Jacksonville's a good option, too. Blurpy saying Jalen Warren, Gabe Davis, or Gerald Everett. I'm assuming this is for flex and PPR. Yeah, folks, if you can put the league format as well, just the points. I'm going to assume that's PPR. But, yeah, we look at Gabe Davis, who's actually almost on pace for a 1,000-yard season, despite the inconsistencies. And I do mean inconsistencies. I don't say that lightly at all. He's hurt. He's not hurt and scoring a 0 despite being in for over 70% of snaps. And what is this? 1, 2, 3, 4. And then he'll go and give you 20. Oh, I don't like that at all. Blurpy, I am probably tight end premium and half-point PPR. Okay. Kmet is active. You just need to refresh the sleeper site. Okay, then I would roll with Kmet, between Kmet and Gerald Everett. I'm probably going with Jalen Warren, Blurpy, because of the pass catching upside. Gabe Davis is extremely inconsistent, and Gerald Everett is on not the best offense in the world. I mean, we can look at what he's done. I like Gerald Everett. I was using him a lot towards the tail end of last year, and he is getting a decent amount of usage for sure. This is just a team. Could see a lot of targets in Week 17. I mean, the faltering competition around him is promising. I don't like the inconsistency of Gabe Davis, so if I have to pick between those, I'm going Jaylen Warren and then Gerald Everett. Jaylen Warren, at least we know what we're getting. Gerald Everett is in a decent situation, but with Jaylen Warren, we know we're not going to get a ton of touches on the ground, but we will get these. He is turning into one of the, I'll say it, elite pass catchers. And usually when you see 65 targets through 15 games, it's not jumping off the page to you. But the reason I like it is because he's still not really being utilized a whole lot. This is still somebody who I would say on average, if I were to do some quick math, is in for maybe 50% of the snaps. I think this will be his backfield in the future. He is much more efficient than Najee Harris, going up against a Seattle defense that struggled a bit on all fronts, but is also fighting for their playoff lives. I like Jaylen Warren and or Gerald Everett. I refuse to put the fate of my season on the shoulders of Gabe Davis when he's had 4 games where he's played pretty much the whole game, more than 70% of snaps, and he's put up a goose egg. So no thank you. All right. We've got MA Football Guys saying, I've been advised to start Eckler over Zeke on one of my championship teams. What do you think? Eckler is quite the tragic story because he was supposed to be one of the best running backs coming into this year, and he's been injured and inefficient, and everybody around him has fallen apart, and this team's not winning football games. Not very efficient has been Eckler. Not as many checkdowns with Easton Stick back there going up against Denver. They're a bend but don't break. As opposed to Ezekiel Elliott going up against Buffalo. A team that is allowing 4.6 yards per carry, one of the highest rates in the league. But we are just seeing this random influx of checkdowns to Ezekiel Elliott. 11 targets, 9 receptions for 33 yards. I mean, that's 12.3 points. It's an ugly 12.3 points, but it's 12.3 points. Yeah. I think I'm going Zeke. Because in PPR, we're getting much more pass-catching upside from him. Obviously, Ramondre Stevenson is out. I don't expect New England to go out and win this game against a Buffalo team that's vying to get into the playoffs. But I do think that Zeke's getting enough usage through the air to make up for any inefficiency we've seen on the ground. We knew we weren't going to get some great, productive, prime Zeke on the ground. But what we are getting, because Ramondre Stevenson is out, is the checkdown king. So I'll take Zeke over Eckler. I did not think I'd be saying that at any point this year or ever again. But yeah, I like Zeke, MA Football Guy. Whoever advised you, I think, has something going. All right. Tino says, I've got Debo in the other wide receiver spot. Yeah, I would probably go Chase Olave, ETN, especially because of the game script. That team should easily beat a Panthers team even without Trevor Lawrence. So that's my opinion there. I think it's the smarter play. Blurpy says, pick 3, Aaron Jones, Mike Evans, Devon Achane, and Travis Etienne. We need to make sure Aaron Jones is 100%. That hasn't been the case for much this year. It looks like he was 100% the last couple of weeks because he's been very productive. But then Matt LaFleur is not utilizing him a ton. Now, against Carolina, he got the ball a ton in the first quarter. Not much for the next 2. And then towards the end when this team tried to ice the game away. Decent amount of pass catching upside again. Very limited sample size for Aaron Jones. He has quite literally only played half the season. And this team is going up against the Vikings, a team that blitzes a lot. They're going to load the box. I'm not sure how much Aaron Jones gets utilized unless it's in the passing game. Devon Achane, obviously, Raheem Mostert out. We're getting a report that Devon Achane is going to be the guy. And then we said we've got Travis Etienne, and we know what we're getting against the Panthers game script-wise. Mike Evans, I cannot pick against Mike Evans. So Mike Evans has to be in there. Devon Achane and Aaron Jones are the 2 unknowns for me. Mike Evans is safe just because of the sheer usage. We can go in and look at the backup for that. I really like the situation Evans is in. It seems like the big 50-50 target, if you will, the go up and get it guy, and Mike Evans seems to be the favorite for Baker Mayfield. Yeah. Wide receiver 4.5 PPR. 10 1,000-yard seasons in a row. That is impressive, does not do it justice. 13 touchdowns. He could set the career high. Consistent usage. Great production. Touchdown upside, to say the very least. He's only had 4 games without a touchdown this year. Mike Evans, we're stapling him in. He's been trustworthy all year. The matchup against against New Orleans, I think it'll be fine. He has struggled historically against the Saints, but he's had a couple good games as of late. So we're going to go Mike Evans, Blurpy. We're going to go Travis Etienne because he's going up against the worst team in football in the Panthers. So even though Jacksonville does not have Trevor Lawrence, I have confidence, decent amount of confidence, that they will be running the ball in the second half to try and run things down. So we're going to go Etienne with confidence. We're going to go Mike Evans just due to sheer production. And you could make the same argument for Etienne. Between Achane and Jones, we have to leave one of those out. Achane has not been utilized a ton, and Jones also has not been utilized a ton, has been hurt. So we kind of have two guys looking in the mirror. Tino says, had Amon-Ra play last night. Well, that was pretty good. Yeah, I mean, the Lions kind of got screwed, but Amon-Ra had a good game. Dak had a good game. CD went berserk. Blurpy's saying, Komet is active. Tight end premium and half-point PPR. That was on the prior question. MA Football Guy saying, I would love to be on a Dynasty League for 2024. Yeah, we could try and set something up if everybody wants to be in a Dynasty League. I want to do at least 10 to 12 teams since it is going to be more of a time investment, and I don't want to be picking from an extremely easy pool where Joe Burrow is on waivers or whatever. So, yeah, we could do that. Joe Phelan, good to see you in here. I think it's your first time here. Welcome. Non-PPR, picking 2 wide receiver and 2 flex. Okay, gotcha. So we're picking out of 5. Michael Pittman Jr., Chris Olave, Puka Nacua, Alvin Kamara, and Zamir White. All things considered, I'm trusting Puka, especially after what we saw last week, and just in general. He's had a couple of oddball games, but for the most part, we're seeing high usage from Nacua. We need him to play, and we need Pittman to play. It looks like Nacua is active. We just got that. See, there's that 90-minute before kickoff report. Yeah, Nakua's been phenomenal. I mean, on pace for what could be a 1,500-yard season. Not a ton of touchdowns, but the sheer usage has been a ton of fun to look at. He's hardly taking any snaps off. Going up against the Giants, I do think this has blowout potential, so he's going to need to score early and often because then it might be Kyron Williams' time. But yeah, I like Puka Nacua here. We have Michael Pittman. I'm going to go check on his status now. I'm assuming because you're asking that and we're 90 minutes out, he is playing. Yep, Michael Pittman's in. There come those wonderful 90-minute reports. So I'm going Pittman. I'm going Puka. Chris Olave, the number 1 target for Derek Carr. Now, this offense has not been great. I will not mince words. They've been pretty hard to watch in New Orleans. But the Tampa Bay secondary has been anything but promising. If you go back and remember when C.J. Stroud threw for like 500 yards, it was against this team. So I like Chris Olave a lot, the definitive number 1 target. Things may not be too pretty in New Orleans right now, but he is on pace to beat out his rookie year. So I like Olave. I like Pittman. I like Puka, as long as we don't see with Pittman and Puka anything that's implying there will be a snap count limit. I would not like that then. So we're between Kamara and Zamir White. Now, Zamir White has had an exciting couple of games, obviously with Josh Jacobs out. He's had some pretty good opportunity. And this team is also fighting for their playoff lives. So huge game at stake. Between 2 teams fighting for their playoff lives, you have the Raiders trying to grab that last spot, and you have the Colts going for a wild card spot as well. Zamir White does not have a whole lot of pass catching upside. I will say that. We look at the strength of opposition in the Colts. Again, folks, if you're just joining in, I'm Corey. I'm answering all of your fantasy football related questions ahead of what is likely your championship or your 3rd place game, 5th place game, likely the last week of fantasy for you. I will still try and go live at least once before kickoff at noon next week on Sunday, and then it's Dynasty fantasy football content, which I'm very excited about. Indy, middle of the pack opposition, Zamir White. Again, we have a very small sample size to go off of, but not much pass catching upside so far. Whereas with Alvin Kamara, this is a pretty easy decision for me to make. Kamara is active per the 90-minute report. Kamara is averaging 7 targets a game, and he's hauling in more than 6 of them. So I think Kamara, especially just on a sheer usage perspective, I know this is non-PPR, but I still think you're going to get a decent amount of yards through the air from Kamara. as we've seen him getting around 50, 40, 30. I'm going to go with him. It's very close because it's non-PPR, and we're kind of just looking for sheer usage. But we're getting sheer usage out of Pittman, Olave, Puka, no doubt, especially the touchdown production from Pittman as of late. I'm going to leave Zamir White out. And if I'm not leaving Zamir White out, I'm leaving Kamara out. I have to leave one of the running backs out. Even though it is non-PPR, I'm going to cough. Excuse me. Even though it is non-PPR, we have to look at overall success. And, I mean, Zamir White could get us 12, 13, 14 points. I still think that Alvin Kamara, just with how many touches he's been getting, has a higher ceiling. I really do. This is wild. As long as he doesn't do that. But, yeah. All right. Yeah, I'm leaving Zamir White out. If I'm not leaving Zamir White out, I'm leaving Alvin Kamara out. MA Football Guy says, Ingram or McBride. That's an interesting one because actually McBride has been like their wide receiver one since Kyler Murray came back. And that has continued. Even against Chicago, I mean, if you can get 9.1 in PPR, again, this is half PPR, out of a tight end, you're probably a pretty happy camper. Yeah, talk about taking a step forward in McBride. He needed a lot of injuries for that to happen, but it's happened nonetheless. Now, the thing with Evan Ingram is the fact that you have both of these as options is pretty dang good. I'm probably going to lean Ingram. He is going up against the Panthers, so he's going to need to score in fantasy early and often. Reason I'm going Ingram. If we look around Jacksonville's team. Yeah, that sucks. Trevor Lawrence is out. Zay Jones is out. And Christian Kirk is on IR. It's pretty much Calvin Ridley and Evan Ingram in the passing game. ETN has some pass catching upside. He's been pretty productive for the most part. 65 targets is nothing to scoff at. So a little over 4 targets per game. But in general, you've got all these trees falling around Evan Ingram. And we're seeing the increased usage as... Oh my goodness, let me back up. As a result, I feel pretty confident with somebody who just got 15 targets, has a 12-target game in there. He was getting utilized this whole season, but now people around him are starting to fall. Didn't have a touchdown for the first almost 3 months of the season. Now he's got 3. I feel pretty confident about this one. So I'm going to go Ingram. It's close. Very good options to have, MA Football Guy. I will say that. All right, and then, opponent has CD and CMC. Wow. Well, CD went nuts, so let's just hope that CMC is contained. I'm also facing CMC today, so in the championship, so we'll see. All right, any other questions you folks have? We will be live probably at least for the next 45 minutes here. I'm going to go matchup to matchup and just kind of talk about the different options here. 1 second. There we go. Okay, we'll go matchup to matchup here. Just to kind of go over some general headlines, I will keep checking the chat. Again, folks, if you're just jumping in, I'm Corey. I'm answering all of your fantasy football questions ahead of the main slate here in Week 17. So make sure you ask me anything at all that you have. I just noticed I'm covering up my little message on the bottom there. There we go. A little more. Yeah, that's good enough. But folks, yeah, any questions you have at all, I am just going over this main slate of games. So we have Miami against Baltimore. This could be the AFC Championship game. It really could. Baltimore's playing out of their minds. Miami simply needs to stay healthy. That's really been the whole issue with them the last couple of years. Tua going down last year and Skylar Thompson playing in a playoff game against the Bills, I want to say it was. And now just the revolving door they have at running back. Mostert's been pretty reliable, but he's down. So it's Achane, followed up by Jeff Wilson Jr. Things are interesting in Baltimore in the backfield as well because obviously we have Gus Edwards there. Keaton Mitchell just went down with not a career-ending injury, I hope, a season-ending injury, but Justin Hill has been taking the majority of the workload outside of the red zone. That's where Gus Edwards has been getting some more usage because he is that bigger, more physical build. I'm confident in the run game for both teams, if I'm being honest with you. I don't know how much Baltimore is going to test out the secondary of Miami. They've actually been playing very well. I will say Miami will likely try and test Baltimore. Miami just went up against a Cowboys team that plays press coverage more than anybody else. And they didn't expose them, but they had some success. So I think in general, we can be pretty confident with somebody like Devon Achane because of the sheer productivity we've had from him earlier. I think in general, we can be okay with Gus Edwards as long as he gets a touchdown. I don't love touchdown reliancy, especially in non-PPR formats and specifically for running backs. Justice Hill is a deeper play, but I do think he's more or less just going to be taking a chunk out of the production of Gus Edwards. And quarterback play-wise, I'm feeling pretty good about Lamar in general. I feel pretty good about Lamar or Tua. I would not look at either of those guys and say, oh, kind of a tough matchup. I'm resting them. They have been guys who have been able to stand the test of tough matchups so far. Jadis, is Avonte Maddox playing today for the Eagles? On defense, I actually don't know. 90-minute reports are out. I can find that out for you. Same question before. I could sit Nakua. This is Blurpy. I could sit Nakua. Oh, out of those three, or I'm sorry, out of Aaron Jones, Mike Evans, Achane, and Etienne, I would probably take Nakua as long as he's 100% over either Achane or Aaron Jones, specifically because it is PPR. Yeah. So I would probably do that. If you're going to swap Nakua in for any of those guys, it would probably be Aaron Jones or Achane. Otherwise, if you want to pick all of them and leave Nakua out, so be it. I think if Nakua is healthy, we've got way too much to rely on, though. All right, Zamir or pick up Jaylen Warren. Definitely Jaylen Warren if we're talking PPR. If it's half PPR, it's kind of a toss-up. But Warren has had so much pass-catching upside, I feel pretty good about that. So, yeah, MA football guy, I'm going to go with Jaylen Warren out of those two. I wish he'd get more touches on the ground. Najee Harris is still kind of owning the backfield in that regard, but Warren has been more efficient, the better pass catcher. Kind of frustrating to watch at times, to be honest with you, but that is football for us. Avonte Maddox. Yeah, it looks like he's playing today. First time since week 2. All right, we keep going through these matchups here. New England at Buffalo. Okay. New England just won a game against Denver, and now Russ is pretty much not playing throughout the remainder of the year due to some contract implications where Denver doesn't want to play him a whole lot. Russ is likely a free agent, yada, yada, yada. Right? I'm feeling pretty good about Josh Allen in all regards. I'm feeling very good about James Cook game script-wise because we do expect Buffalo to come out on top here. On the other end of things, I feel all right about Ezekiel Elliott. MA Football Guy was asking me earlier, how do we feel about Zeke as opposed to somebody like Austin Eckler? I'm actually taking Zeke, as crazy as that sounds, because of Zeke's pass-catching upside. Ezekiel Elliott has been phenomenal in the passing game. In PPR, I do think he has top 12, top 10 potential just because of all the checkdowns we're seeing from Zappy to him. That seems to be his cushion. It's looking like a Derek Carr and Alvin Kamara relationship here. Yeah, so a random headline on my phone just popped up about Tom Brady contemplating unretirement. Holy cow. Anyway, on the other end of things, I mean, yeah, not too much to like in New England for fantasy purposes. Demario Douglas has had his fair share of decent games as of late, so we could go that route in deeper league formats. But really, the people we're focusing on, Ezekiel Elliott. Josh Allen's the number 1 quarterback in fantasy right now. Yes, he turns the ball over a ton, but he also has 40 total touchdowns, including 13 on the ground. A very underrated aspect of his game. James Cook has been playing pretty well. No pass catching aspect to his game against Los Angeles. We'll see if he can get some redemption in what should be, in my opinion, a pretty easy game for the Bills just because New England looks like they're kind of tearing it all down right now. Got some more questions in the chat. We'll get to those here. We have Blurpy saying Etienne or Jefferson. I'm going Justin Jefferson against the Packers. The Packers secondary has struggled, and now they're without their number one corner in Jair Alexander. I doubt they play man on them a whole lot. It's probably going to be Eric Stokes who's in that general area, but Stokes has missed the majority of this year as well. All right, Tyrod Taylor or Taylor Heineke to win me the championship. The fact you're in the championship right now, this is Colts fan Caden. Welcome. I think it's my first time seeing you here. The fact you are in the championship and you're in that situation, in my opinion, I'm going to think glass half full here, is pretty dang impressive. If you've had that much bad luck at the QB spot, now I will get you your answer. Even with Hall playing, I think there's going to be a general reliance on the number one, in my opinion, number one wide receiver in the entire league in Justin Jefferson. Yes, even with Hall playing, Blurpy, because that secondary has not looked great. Blurpy, this is the same secondary in Green Bay that just allowed Bryce Young to throw for his first 300-yard game, and he also had 2 touchdowns to his name. He was nearly the third straight, somewhat mediocre quarterback to be the NFC Offensive Player of the Week against the Packers. So I actually have a lot of confidence in Justin Jefferson getting the targets we need him to get. All right, Tyrod Taylor or Taylor Heineke. Heineke, obviously, we've seen what he can do. He'll stick around that 12, 13, 14-point mark. Tyrod Taylor's an interesting one. He's taking over a team that is not in the best spot in the world. Tyrod, in my opinion, has never been a bad quarterback. Like, he's had some impressive years, but wherever he goes, a team seemingly just goes with a different quarterback for whatever reason. Like, he was in Buffalo, and then it was Josh Allen. He was in Cleveland, and then it was Baker for a few years. He was in Los Angeles, and then it was Justin Herbert. He was in Houston, and then it was Davis Mills for a couple years. I mean, yeah, this guy just kind of jumps around. Tyrod Taylor, specifically against the Rams, I don't love. Taylor Heineke against the Bears. Now, the Bears' defense has actually been one of the best in the league in terms of turnovers forced. So we have to look at strength of opposition here. So Taylor against the Rams and the other Taylor against the Bears. If we look at the strength of opposition, I think this is kind of a sneaky trap. A lot of people look at the Bears defense, Bears in general, and they go, they're not looking too great. Look at the turnovers they've forced, all right? Sacks, forced fumbles, fumble recovery, and interception. 2 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, 4 interceptions. 3 interceptions here off Goff, 2 more interceptions off Goff, 3 against Cleveland and Flacco, and they still lost. And then Arizona, a couple of sacks. I mean, outside of Arizona, that's actually probably the worst offense they've played in a while. They did well against a bruised-up Minnesota team. They did very well against Detroit twice, and they killed it against Cleveland. It just ended up being an ugly game. I think Heineke has a pretty tough opposition. Let's look at what the Rams have been able to do through the air, and we'll look at their profile as well. When you're streaming, it really just matters who they're playing, right? I feel that everybody is going to deviate around the same spot unless you have some crazy aspect like rushing upside. The Rams allowing 231 passing yards per game. The Bears allowing 237. But again, the Bears have been forcing a lot more turnovers as of late. And the last thing we need is Taylor Heineke throwing a couple picks and messing us over. Yeah, a couple pressures, the occasional game with an interception. I think I'm going to go Tyrod here. It's close, but because of the turnovers and the overall pressure we've seen from Chicago since they went out and got Montez Sweat, I think I'm going to go with Tyrod Taylor here. Yeah, that's the direction I'm going. All-in-one show is here. Pick 2, Achane, Warren, Javonte, Eckler. I'm ditching Eckler due to sheer inefficiency and the fact that Easton Stick has not been looking in his direction as much, so we're between Javonte, Jalen Warren, and Devon Achane. All right, Devon Achane, we've talked about him a couple times today already on the stream. And folks, we are almost at 10 likes on the stream. If you can leave a like as we prep you for Week 17 and what is likely your championship, I would greatly appreciate it. Achane, that lightning in a bottle efficiency, right? When we're talking PPR, Warren, I think, is one of the safest options in the league, despite the fact that it's not even really his backfield. Jalen Warren, consistently hovering around 5 targets. Javonte. I'm ditching Eckler. Not much efficiency. Less and less usage. Yeah, it's disappointing because he was supposed to be one of the best options coming into this year, but I think he is hitting that age. I know he's only 28, but as a running back, that's nearing retirement. Javonte Williams, obviously going up against the Chargers. No Russell Wilson. I believe Stidham's in there. Javonte has not been efficient either. I'd argue he's been worse than Eckler. So all in one show, I am assuming... Oh, 2 QB league. Okay. 2 QB league. This is Colts fan, Caden. Sorry, I'm just going to go back real quick because this comment was first. 2 QB league. I was the 9th spot on the waiver this week, and every team before me blocked me from a decent QB. Oh my goodness. Block moves are kind of cancerous, but I have done them, so I can't completely rip on people for doing that. All right. 8 likes, folks. 2 more likes, and we hit 10. That would be awesome for today. Thank you. 2 QB league. I started the year with Anthony Richardson and Trevor Lawrence. All right. Yeah, that's pretty bad luck. Then again, half the quarterbacks in the league have gone down. So I feel like the playing field is leveled a little bit. I am down to Jordan Love, Taylor Heineke, and Tyrod. All right. You do have Love in there. Yeah, I'm probably going to go Tyrod. Just because of the matchup, the Bears have been forcing a lot more turnovers, and the last thing we need is to go with Heineke, and then he throws like 3 picks, and any success he has through the air is pretty much negated, right? Not to mention the passing game is not too exciting. I mean, in either area, at least you get a reliable check down running back in both with Bijan Robinson and then Saquon Barkley, but I feel a little better about Tyrod. And then, okay, for all in one show, picking 2, I'm definitely going to go with Jaylen Warren and probably Devon Achane. Achane's very efficient. Javonte and Austin Eckler are both well below 4 yards per carry and have not been seeing nearly the amount of pass catching upside that we're used to. So I'm probably going Achane and Warren. MA football guys saying, my gut is telling me McBride over Ingram, so I'm going to try it out. Yeah, all power to you, man. And then Colts fan Caden says, rest of the roster is Gibbs, Mixon, Chandler, A.J. Brown, Devontae Adams, I'm assuming, Garrett Wilson, and Isaiah Likely. I had a very strong first 2 weeks of the playoffs to be here. Yeah, that's awesome. Waivers saved you. Waivers are key, man. That's something we focus on a lot here. Just capitalizing wherever you can and picking up talent that gets hot at the right time, right? Demario Douglas has been coming up clutch for a lot of people in deeper leagues, and that's just one random example. Joe says non-PPR, pick 1 for flex. We've got Zamir White. James Conner, Chuba Hubbard, and Nico Collins. Oh, no CJ Stroud. But against Tennessee, that's tempting. Non-PPR, though, for Joe. Zamir White, James Conner. I'm probably going James Conner just because of the sheer usage we've seen from him. He's gotten us through a lot. That's a pretty crappy situation to be in. The front 7 in Philly has been good, but we also have some pass catching upside. I'm going to go with James Conner, non-PPR. If it's not James Conner, I'll go Chuba because that game could get interesting between the Jaguars and Panthers, considering there's no Trevor Lawrence. Again, we have no Christian Kirk, who's on the IR. So it's pretty much, I think it's Beathard. And then we have ETN, Ingram, and Ridley. I am actually going to go with either Chuba or Nico Collins. Or no, I'm sorry, Chuba or James Conner. All right. Niners or Bills D this week? Oh. Blurpy, let's dive into it, shall we? Couple likes away from 10 on the stream, folks. If you can leave a like as I help you as we springboard into Week 17, would greatly appreciate it. I'm Corey. I'll be doing a lot of Dynasty fantasy football content coming up, but right now we are locked in, focused, laser focused, tunnel vision on your fantasy football championships. Which sounds like a lot of you made at least one, so congrats to you. Bills or Niners? Bills against New England, that's tempting. And then against Washington. I mean, both phenomenal picks in my opinion. Probably going to go Bills. And MA football guy is not going to like this because I know he's a Patriots fan, but I go Bills here because, I mean, not to say Washington's doing phenomenal or anything, but New England is scoring at an unprecedented rate right now. They've had a couple nice weeks. They played well against Denver. Yeah, I'm going to go Bills. Divisional opponents, they know each other pretty well. The Bills are trying to punch themselves into the playoffs. You can't go wrong with either, considering the Commanders turn the ball over a ton, but yeah. Colts fan Caden says, I also have O'Connell. He's playing the Colts, my teams who have played against the pass. Oh, my team who has sucked playing against the pass. And we are out of our top 2 DBs, Kenny Moore and Julian Blackmon. You know, maybe we go with O'Connell. O'Connell played not great against the Chiefs by any means. He kind of had to trudge that team through it. And I will say the Colts secondary hasn't been phenomenal to begin with anyway. So the fact they're missing their 2 top pieces, I would either go O'Connell or Taylor. I know it's slim pickings. I'm feeling for you, man. Hopefully you can get a good 15 points out of one of those 2, and then the rest of your team does their job as they've done all year. Edward says, yo, good morning, man. Full PPR, Zeke or Bijan, also Goddard or Likely. I'm going to go, oh my gosh. Yeah, that's tough because you want to say Bijan, right? Even as bad as that offense has been. But Bijan is going up against one of the best run defenses in the entire league. Chicago's front 7 has been no joke. As much of a laughingstock as they've been at times this year, Chicago's front 7 has done their job, and now they have Montez Sweat off the edge. So getting outside the numbers is not going to be easy by any means for Bijan. If he tries to pound up the middle, maybe that's a different story. But you're just not going to get yards in bunches that way more times than not. And on the other side, we have somebody in Ezekiel Elliott who has been the dump-off king. So I'm actually probably going to go Zeke. It's close. If you want to go Bijan, don't let me twist your arm out of it. You know, Bijan's still one of the premier talents in the league. I think Bijan's a way better running back. I just think that Zeke is in a better position. But also, we have been seeing some checkdowns. See, even in half PPR, Sleeper has them scoring 13. They're both going to score 13, according to Sleeper. 13.01. And I think they're exactly the same. 13.00. Okay, yeah. So, if this is PPR, I don't really think you can go wrong with either. I will say Bijan is, I mean, he just doesn't get touches, but Bijan's on a team that's more likely to win their game. Chicago is favored, and it is outdoors, so I do expect a run-heavy scheme from both sides. But at least we're not seeing, oh, the Falcons are supposed to get blown out. The Patriots are supposed to get blown out. And if the Bills end up being up by 3 possessions, yeah, we're really going to need Zeke to be involved in the passing game. But Zeke's had just an unprecedented amount of pass-catching involvement. It's outdoors, so I could see more checkdowns happening. I think I'm going to go Zeke. Call me absolutely nuts. And then Goddard or Likely. Edward, I'm going to go Goddard just because he's had more usage historically. I know Likely is stepping in for Andrews, but we're also seeing Zay Flowers get a decent amount of usage. And that team still runs the ball more than almost anybody else. All right. MA Football Guy says, just hopped in a Dynasty League. Time for more fantasy. Hey, man. All right. Colts fan Caden says, as a Colts fan sitting in this stadium right now, I don't know if I can make myself do it. Okay, I mean, I went to a Bears-Packers game earlier this year, and I wasn't sure that I could start Aaron Jones. So I kind of understand that. Yeah. That's fair. You know what? Go with Tyrod then. If you're not going to go with Aiden O'Connell, go with Tyrod. Aiden O'Connell did not look good against the Chiefs. It was really just the supporting cast that was doing well. So there is that. Again, folks, I'm Corey. We're answering all and any of your questions ahead of Week 17. We have a lot of Dynasty fantasy football coming up. But right now, the priority is you. Ask me anything you have in the next about 30, 35 minutes before kickoff, and we will get you going. All right, Blurpy saying, isn't Stroud playing? I saw that he was questionable. Again, I haven't seen the final 90-minute report because I got on here a little earlier. Stroud is in. Okay. You know what? Where is that Nico Collins question? You guys are doing awesome. Just filling up the chat. I love to see it. Nico Collins. Whoever asked me about Nico Collins earlier, I have a different opinion slightly, considering that Tennessee's secondary has given up a decent amount and C.J. Stroud is for sure in. All right. And then Derrickson here says 10-team, half PPR, 2 flex. Thanks for putting all the formats in there, my friend. We're sitting one out of Austin Eckler, Aaron Jones, T. Higgins, and Jaden Reed. Jaden Reed's been the Swiss Army knife in Green Bay. They've actually had him. They're kind of using him like a Tavon Austin type. I don't know if you guys remember him from about 10 years ago. But Reed has kind of been their wide receiver one from a usage perspective. This is a Minnesota team that blitzes a lot, so I could expect Jordan Love to get the ball out quick to somebody like Reed, if not Romeo Doubs. Reed has been injured throughout the week, but it looks like he will be good to go. He has the extra 6 or 7 hours to prepare for tonight's game, so that's good news. I think in general, Jaden Reed is a very safe option. These are points in a half PPR format, so you can imagine it looks a little better for full PPR. So we're sitting one. I'm taking Jaden Reed. I'm taking T. Higgins in that offense that is pretty much healthy. So I'm between Austin Eckler and Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones looked very productive. Do I want to double stack on this team? I might. Their season's on the line, and I do think they pull out all the stops here. If you look at just the sheer talent on Green Bay, I would argue Aaron Jones, being that veteran running back, is one of the best on that offense. And then it's probably Jaden Reed, if we're being honest with ourselves here. This is somebody they've leaned on more and more and more. He has been their main target outside of Romeo Doubs, so it's kind of been a 1-2 punch for the most part. 6 touchdowns. He's been getting a decent amount of red zone touches. And then, I mean, just randomly, he's been getting about a carry a game. So there is that as well. 10.8 yards a carry. We're seeing at least one reverse or jet sweep or something with Jaden Reed involved. I think I'm going to leave Austin Eckler out of there, just because of the sheer inconsistency that we've seen from him as of late. We look at Austin Eckler. I mean, he hasn't been horrible, I guess. If you're running back 24 and you've missed a month of play, you got to be doing something right. But compared to expectations, I have not been impressed. He has not been efficient. I would either leave Eckler or Jones out, but Jones has been doing a lot better the last couple of weeks. All right. We've got more and more in the chat here. Welcome, 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 everybody. Again, I'm Corey. We're answering all of your fantasy football questions ahead of Week 17. If you're getting value out of this, make sure you leave a like. Make sure you subscribe. But what I care about is that you leave your questions in the chat below. We've got about 35 minutes to go before that main noon slate kickoff here. It's noon for me because I'm in Central Time. All right, so Derek, I'm leaving Eckler or Jones out of the party. I'm leaning Eckler, especially in half PPR. Blurpy, I'm a Pats fan too, and I hope the Bills dominate us. Yeah, you want that pick. You want Marvin Harrison Jr. or Drake May. That's what you want. Or Caleb Williams, right? Joe Phelan says, standard pick 2, wide receivers and 2 flex. We've got Ayuk, Olave, Nico Collins, Zamir White. Chigo Okonkwo, I want to say. CHI and then A. I might need some clarification on that. And Connor for the ship. All right, so we're leaving 2 out. Well, I'm definitely going Ayuk, considering his consistency and his role in that passing offense. I'm definitely going Olave. Same thing. Derek Carr has been targeting him a ton regardless of the matchup. And he has a nice matchup this week. Nico Collins with C.J. Stroud healthy. He's already over 1,000 yards despite missing the last couple of weeks. I feel very confident in those first 3, even in standard, just because of sheer usage. Zamir White is getting around 20 carries. I think he got 20 carries last week, right? And going up against New Orleans, nope, that's the wrong White. Zamir White, productive and getting a lot of usage out of the backfield. So I'm feeling good about Zamir White in standard. If we can get a touchdown, that's obviously a bonus, but it's also just promising that he's been able to get us over an average of 100 yards per game on the ground. Not too involved in the passing game, but again, we don't really care in standard. So I'm going Ayuk, I'm going Olave, I'm going Collins, I'm going White. Connor or White is probably what it's going to be. All right, let's see. If I were to leave anybody out of that, it's going to be... Zamir White, we don't have much of a sample size on. You've got a stacked team, man. I don't know what format you're in, but I like Ayuk. I like Olave. And I like Collins. I think we have to use one of those guys for a flex. I'd probably take Connor over White, even though he's not in the best situation. At least Connor is getting a little more pass catching upside, and we have a larger sample size on him and more usage. He's going against Philly. I don't want to test him too much against Philly, but then again, we don't have much of a sample size with Whites. I keep clicking the wrong Whites. There we go. I'm probably going James Conner. More of a major role in that offense. We've got more data to drive off of. So I'm probably going to leave Zamir White off this. I keep saying I like Zamir White, especially in standard leagues, but then I look at the options you have. This is for Joe Phelan, and I'm like, I don't know if I can avoid those guys, right? Especially Nico Collins with Stroud back. I'd hate to get burned with their season on the line. That's what you have to understand. A lot of these teams, it's do or die for the playoffs right now. They're going to utilize their best players. I'm not worried about Justin Jefferson with Jaron Hall back there. I am not worried about Nico Collins and CJ Stroud both coming off injury. I'm not worried about some guys who are coming in with illnesses like Elvin Kamara, because I honestly think if there's a time to go all systems go with the playoffs on the line, obviously this is it. All right. We've got Edward saying Olave or DJ Moore. DJ Moore going up against a Falcons secondary that's actually been pretty impressive so far. And Chris Olave going up against the worst secondary in the league. I'm going to go Chris Olave. Yep. The Bucs allowing north of 250 passing yards per game. I actually expect the Saints offense to start chugging for once. So we're going to do that. Taking Olave over Moore. Dalton Schultz or Isaiah Likely. Schultz has been more consistent. Likely is in a decently optimal position, obviously, with Mark Andrews being down. Almost at 10 likes, folks. I'm Corey, helping you out ahead of Week 17, answering any and all of your questions. If you can leave a like, leave a subscribe, and then, of course, go into the comment section and ask me anything you have. That's all I'm asking for you on this Sunday. Yeah, Likely obviously getting increased opportunity, pretty touchdown reliant, 8.6 not too shabby, 8 not too shabby since Mark Andrews went down. Dalton Schultz, CJ Stroud just knows how to spread the ball around, right? At the end of the day, that's what it is. Weak secondary in the Titans. I would lean harder into Dalton Schultz. Yes, there's opportunity for Likely with the fact he's slipping into that tight end one spot. I still don't think I'm taking him over somebody who's been very consistent in Schultz. MA Football Guy says, he's talking to Blurpy there. Manpreet Atwal says, full PPR, we're starting 2. Isaiah Pacheco, Calvin Ridley, Zay Flowers, Chris Godwin. Definitely going Calvin Ridley, considering that Christian Kirk's on the IR, and we are also missing Zay Jones today. I really like the Ridley / Ingram / ETN play, especially ETN against that pretty poor Panthers team. And then we have Isaiah Pacheco. Again, another team that's kind of playing with their season on the line. The Chiefs should be fine, even if they lose out. The AFC West looks horrible. Zay Flowers, the number one option out wide on a pretty run-heavy team, but, he has been having some success. We'll look at Flowers here. Oh, Flowers is clear. All right. Yeah. He's been a little inconsistent, too. We've got some 1-point performances, some 6s, some 9s, some 4s, and then he'll explode. Again, very run-heavy team, even in full PPR. I want Ridley, and I think I'm between Godwin and Pacheco. Godwin going up against the Saints. Obviously, Mike Evans historically has struggled against the Saints and Marshawn Lattimore, but, that's another story. And then we have Pacheco going up against Cincinnati. Clears concussion protocol. Expected to play. Everybody's questionable, man. With the pass catching upside too, but again, it's full PPR. You're really going to have to twist my arm in a lot of scenarios to make me pick a running back over a decent wide receiver in PPR formats. So, Manpreet, I am going to go Calvin Ridley and Chris Godwin. Chris Godwin's getting more usage than Flowers. Pacheco's a running back who just cleared concussion protocol. And yes, he's decently involved in the passing game, but he's not getting more targets than somebody like Godwin. I'm going to go Godwin and Ridley. My third option would probably still be Flowers, even though he doesn't have as big of a role in his offense as, say, Ridley or Godwin does. MA Football Guy says, I would not mind Penix. Definitely a Marvin Harrison Jr. guy. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a top 3 pick, I think, for the Patriots as long as they lose out. The win against the Broncos did not help them, but yeah. All right. MA Football Guy saying, happy week 17, Corey. Enjoy. Mike Evans. Oh, going for Mike Evans in New England? That'd be something. Colts fan Caden saying, last one. No problem, man. Good to see you in here. I think it's your first time in this live stream, so I hope I was able to answer everything effectively for you. Good luck to your Colts as well. Last one. Also, I'm a big Gardner Minshew fan. I will say that before I answer your question. I think Gardner Minshew definitely has a future as a starter in the NFL. I really don't think he's had a fair shake yet. Kind of been bouncing around. It's not going to be his team next year with AR coming back. Even when he came into the league, he was on a Jaguars team that ended up getting the number 1 overall pick. It went with T-Law, so that's my 2 cents. Last one. Ty Chandler or Adam Thielen? Tough one because Adam Thielen has fallen off a cliff, right? Also, enjoy the game, man. You're at a big game today. Thielen up against Jacksonville, a defense that has struggled, and obviously Thielen, the wide receiver 1 on an offense that is always working from behind. Yeah, he's on track to have one of his best seasons still, even after the pretty sharp decline in performance the last few weeks. He was going nuts the first few. And yeah, I mean, still, we're getting a lot more out of Adam Thielen than I think we thought. I was saying Thielen was going to have a 1,000-yard season before the year started, and we're on a good pace here. Knock on wood. Thielen or Chandler? Chandler against that front 7 in Green Bay. Thielen, favorable game script. Chandler, not sure I can say the same. I do think Green Bay takes this one, especially with all of the injuries on the offense of Minnesota. Chandler, we need a lot of rushing production from him. We can't really rely on any pass catching aspect for the most part. I'm probably feeling better about Thielen. Green Bay defense isn't great, but I can't confidently say that Jaren Hall, I think it's going to be close. I can't confidently say that Jaren Hall is going to lead that offense to a healthy lead to the point where they are leaning into their running back. All right. I mean, it's as simple as that. He's been pretty touchdown reliant. He's been relatively efficient. But the fact of the matter is we have a larger sample size with somebody like Adam Thielen. Adam Thielen is going up against a pretty vulnerable secondary in Jacksonville. And on top of everything else, Adam Thielen is on a team that loses a lot of football games and as a result has to go pass heavy. So I think I'm going to go Thielen here. Thielen over Chandler, especially if this is PPR for your flex spot. Colts fan Caden, hope that helped. All right, folks, we have about 25 minutes before kickoff. Looks like the questions have kind of died down, so I think I'm going to wrap things up here. Thank you so much for joining the stream. Again, I'm Corey here to answer any and all of your questions ahead of Week 17. We'll be streaming more going into next week, and then it's Dynasty Fantasy Football time. So if you have any interest in the Dynasty Fantasy Football world, by all means, I am here for you. We'll be doing some rookie profiles going into the 2024 NFL Draft, which is in about 3.5 months, and so much more. Good luck in Week 17. Good luck with everything. Discord link is in the description if you want any more questions answered in the next half hour or just want to, shoot the crap and ask me anything about fantasy. We will see you in the next one. Have a great day, everybody.